Well, we avoided the shutdown. I wasn't sure we could. I wasn't sure we would. And now it's led to this. Matt Gaetz from Florida wants to throw out Kevin McCarthy.
Democrats join together to do what is right. If somebody wants to make a motion against me, bring it. There has to be an adult in the room.
That's Kevin McCarthy's response, and Matt Gaetz saying he will bring a motion to oust the speaker to vacate the chair, and that Kevin McCarthy says there needs to be an adult in the room. I got to explain this one to you because there's listen, I understand the way this works. I've been around long enough. People claim principle in policy, but really like to latch on to personality. And when they've adopted a personality, they are hard-pressed to acknowledge that personality has done something wrong. We are, all of us, guilty of that. The Matt Gaetz fanboys who just wanted a shutdown can't acknowledge what actually happened. The House Republicans had a plan, and the plan was agreed to by all of the House Republicans. That plan would have started their negotiations with the Senate for this continuing resolution with an 8% cut of the budget, except in defense and in Veterans Affairs. So you'd have had basically 1% to every division of the government, but for defense and Veterans Affairs, that would amount to an 8% budget cut. That was their starting position. They viewed the continuing resolution as a negotiation with the Senate, and their starting point was 8% cuts. What starting at 8% meant is they would not get 8%, and let's not kid ourselves, they would never have gotten an 8% cut from Senate Democrats. But what they could have done is draw a line in the sand and say, we started it at 8 and you want growth. We're either going to have nothing or we're going to have some cuts. So there will either be no growth of government or there will be some cuts. That was their opening position. But Matt Gaetz hates Kevin McCarthy. He denies that it's personal, and everybody knows it's personal. Nobody quite understands what it's about. And Matt Gaetz scuttled cuts, scuttled contemplation of cuts. In fact, because of what Matt Gaetz did, we're probably going to grow government. In fact, we are growing government. They added money to the federal budget for disaster relief, growing government. Now, Matt Gaetz' supporters say, well, he didn't want to fund Ukraine. The original plan didn't fund Ukraine. Matt Gaetz supporters say, well, he wanted budget security. The original plan had border security. Everything Matt Gaetz said he wanted was in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th iterations of this plan. They were not going to fund Ukraine, and they were going to fund the border, the things Gaetz said he wanted. Instead, what was the result of Matt Gaetz deciding it was more important to oust Kevin McCarthy? They get no budget cuts, no negotiation for budget cuts, no border funding, no Ukraine funding, and they spend $16 billion more dollars than we have in order for additional disaster relief. That's what Matt Gaetz got us. He says it's not personal. He says there's no animus. Nobody believes him. Matt Gaetz says he's for smaller government. He has a kernel of truth in what he says. It's the right message from the wrong messenger. Matt Gaetz is right. We should not continue to fund the government with continuing resolutions, but he's wrong in how he destroyed the opportunity to cut government. The plan that House conservatives got and this, by the way, it's a remarkable feat. The House Freedom Caucus was able to get the moderates, the liberals, the mainstream, the leadership, all the wings of the Republican Party in the House. They were able to get them to agree to 8% cut in the budget. The House Freedom Caucus got everybody else to agree to an 8% budget cut, but Matt Gaetz sabotaged it because he wants to set up a plan to oust the speaker. So here's how Matt Gaetz wants to oust the speaker. The speaker had to rely on Democrats to get his continuing resolution through. He lost 90 Republicans. So now Gaetz says, well, Kevin McCarthy promised he would never do that, so we need to oust him. He set it up for either the government to shut down or for McCarthy to have to rely on Democrats. I told you people last week what was going to happen. that what Gaetz was doing was forcing Republicans to side with Democrats, and that would force the growth of government. That's what Matt Gaetz did, all to nurse his agenda and vendetta against Kevin McCarthy. He orchestrated a plan whereby the only way to keep the government open was for the Republicans to go along with the Democrats and sabotage their opening negotiation of budget cuts. Now, there are those of you, and by the way, you should know, I'm a big fan of government shutdowns. I love a government shutdown. I get all the, oh, it's just not fair. People aren't going to get their paycheck and work for the government. Oh, the military's going to have to work without money. They're going to reopen it eventually and do back pay. I'm not sympathetic to the argument. We got to draw land in the sand. We got to shut it down. I'm fine with the shutdown, but here's the problem with the Matt Gaetz shutdown is he had no plan. It was just shut down the government and find a way to reopen it. There were 6 Republicans who had 6 competing ideas, none of which could get a majority support in the caucus. Literally, Matt Gaetz's plan was either shut down the government or have Kevin McCarthy work with Democrats and we'll discredit him. What was his shutdown? How was he going to get it back open? He literally had no plan. He had no proposal that even the conservative members of the House would agree to. So, of course, the Republicans and the Democrats worked to keep the government open. I'm a big fan of government shutdowns, but every government shutdown has had a plan and a purpose. They didn't always work. The government shutdown over Obamacare was designed to, we're going to keep it closed until we repeal Obamacare. And Republicans and Democrats conspired together to reopen it and not kill Obamacare. But it was a plan. You may not like the plan. You may have thought it was foolhardy, but there was an articulated plan. We're going to keep it shut down until they do this. The 2011-12 shutdown was about sequestration. We're going to keep it shut down until you agree to real-world cuts of government. And it worked. They got real-world cuts in government called sequestration. It worked, and they reopened government. This one was literally, we're going to shut down the government until Kevin McCarthy works with the Democrats to reopen it, and then we're going to oust McCarthy. That was it. Really? That's a stupid plan. That does nothing but nurse a grudge against Kevin McCarthy. And so what is the result? Republicans and Democrats now have 45 days to negotiate a larger plan to fund the government for the next year, and spending cuts will not be part of it thanks to Matt Gaetz and his personal grievance against Kevin McCarthy. Yes, Matt Gaetz owns the growth in government because Republicans agreed to start negotiations at an 8% cut until Gaetz decided because he hates McCarthy so much he would scuttle it to try to oust McCarthy. He's probably now grown government and can't oust McCarthy because I don't think he has the votes to do it. He may be a smart guy, but he's a blithering idiot when it comes to this strategy.